So, Dr. Adams, if this trial is successful, how will this advance the standard of care for women who have early stage breast cancer?
I think the larger DCARE study is the trial that actually will advance the standard of care once the results are available and if they're positive, making this more of a standard therapy for early breast cancer. I think our study will provide the biological background and see if the doses chosen is the right dose to cause changes in the breast tumors themselves. Mm-hmm. So on its own, it will not change practice. It will likely give us important information to either support the study that has been completed and may become available when it's positive, or if not positive, then it may provide us information how to design the next study.
Mm-hmm. And we hear all the time at Healthio 360 and at Vital Options International so many fears and myths around participating in clinical trials, many of them unfounded. So what would you most like patients to know if they're considering participating in a clinical trial?
It's a very good point, and certainly that is one of the barriers why different ethnic groups don't participate in clinical trials, but I hear it even in the Caucasian population that there is fear. There's several different trial phases, and it's important to learn about that. For instance, the trial that we are conducting is a pre-surgical trial with an approved drug, so it's not that you're testing a drug in a certain disease. It is actually looking at an available drug and how it can be used to advance, and improve clinical outcomes. But then there's phase 1 trials where you get access to new drugs. There's phase 2 studies, and then there's phase 3 studies that compare the newest drug to the standard of care. And it's important that all the discoveries to date really have been through that pathway. So it allows you access to drugs. And you can discuss with your oncologist what are the pros and cons of participating. It's a very open discussion. Mm-hmm. It's voluntary. You can withdraw your consent anytime. And I would encourage patients to do it because it is the best care you can get, mm-hmm. to participate in the clinical trial. Plus to advance science for the next generation of patients.
Right, doing something for the greater good.
Absolutely.
As well as for yourself.
Absolutely. But you should really discuss with your oncologist what are the pros and cons for you to participate in a study. It definitely gives you access to drugs that you would otherwise not have, but it is important to discuss potential side effects and looking individually at you and how it can help you, or if it doesn't help you, how it can help others, and putting that into context with the potential side effect profile.
Mm-hmm. So immunotherapies, precision medicine, targeted therapies, they're such big topics these days. They get a lot of press, but I'm interested to know, what are you seeing coming out here at SABCS for advanced therapies that are coming out for women who maybe are not eligible to use those more targeted therapies?
And when you say not eligible, meaning that they have too advanced their disease, or they are not meeting eligibility because if they have brain metastases, what are you?
So if you take, for instance, like my case, that I have triple negative breast cancer, so there are some really targeted therapies for breast cancers for a certain hormone receptor. So I obviously wouldn't be able to use a chemotherapy agent like that. But is there anything coming out that would be really exciting for someone in my position to hear about?
So you're talking specifically about triple negative early breast cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. So one interesting study was the rank ligand study with denosumab that may offer in the future patients the participation in high-risk states without having cancers. And I think the immunotherapy field is advancing to the degree that we're actually moving immunotherapies from triple negative advanced cancer into the earlier setting. So there is going to be one study that that will be opening globally that is open to women who have chemotherapy before surgery for larger cancers, at least 2 centimeters in size. And then if there is still residual cancer at surgery, those women can go on to a trial that randomizes them to placebo versus immunotherapy. For very early breast cancers like yourself, if you have a tumor that is less than 1 or 2 centimeters, is triple negative, the prognosis is so good that they are not yet considered for clinical studies, including the study I mentioned, or including other trials, because the risk of recurrence is small. And that is great news for you, but it also means that you can't participate because studies try to, if it's considering early breast cancer, they have to enroll patients who are at very high risk for recurrences, so that the result is available in a couple of years and not fades among a very low risk population. So it is good news clinically, but you probably are not eligible for these more high-risk patient trials. We have also a study, for instance, at NYU and other centers, that you can, if you have a BRCA mutation and have early breast cancer, you can participate in a study for PARP inhibitor, which is an oral medicine that has been potentially efficacy in BRCA mutated cancers. But for that, again, you have to have a tumor that is at least 2 centimeters in size. Just because you have to show efficacy to ultimately benefit more and more women. So it has to be a stage or lymph node involvement that predicts a higher risk of recurrence.
And you did mention women who have brain metastases. Is anything coming out that could provide hope to women with brain metastases?
So one of the keynote speakers today mentioned a study that is ongoing at Dana-Farber, where actually investigators have used tissue from brain metastases that was resected and then used it in mouse models to look for efficacy of certain chemotherapeutic drugs. And what they found is that some of the tumors have a high sensitivity to mTOR and PI3 kinase drugs, which are, available in clinical trials. So I think that's the first step in making progress, that you find individualized access to drugs. There is the MATCH trial, which is an NCI-sponsored trial that targets mutations that are found individually in tumors. So you can be eligible for that if you have an advanced cancer. And then there's also some data at this meeting on novel HER2-targeted drugs in patients with brain metastases, where there can be stability for longer term as well. So there are some updates.
Some hope. Good.
Some hope.